All right. Well, welcome to Real Talk. I'm so excited that you guys are here. I'm Roger Gibson, marriage and family pastor, and this is
Bree Kitch. I'm the marriage and family therapist and the director of the mental health ministry.
And you know, whether you're from Bedford, Grapevine, Hazlet, Northlake, or right here at North Fort Worth, we are so glad that you've joined us for this Real Talk on workaholism. And you know what, Bree, this is really a sticky topic that we're going to be sharing a lot of information.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what is workaholism, but really we're going to get into like the heart issues that lead us to overworking and seeking out our worth in this way. So it's going to be a much broader topic than just about working too much. We're going to give you all the details tonight. Roger's going to start us off, but before he does, I want you guys to notice this phone number on your screen. As we're going through, if questions come up for you, please be texting those in. We will get a list of those, and at the very end, we're going to save some time to be able to address those. They're all going to be anonymous, so we won't call you out. You can do that from the live stream or from here in person, so please be sure to text in your questions.
Yeah, and text it to 817-482-4310. So we can't wait to get your questions. If we say something that you go, wow, I'd love to hear more about that, please text us that, and we want to dive into that a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So, Bree, where do we go from here?
So, before we get too deep into this topic, I'm going to introduce you guys to a video from one of my favorite Office shows, The Office. This doesn't really have anything to do with specifically workaholism, but it's going to get us in the mood of the office and working. So, we're going to head over to that, and then Roger's going to dive in. Thanks for being here.
Son, we're having a limited.
Speak up a little bit louder. I'm hard of hearing.
He's hard if he's an old man.
Okay, as I was saying, right now we are having.
Talk louder.
Okay, our prices have never been lower.
Son, you have to talk louder.
Never been lower.
Louder, son!
Buttlicker! Our prices have never been lower.
Stop it! That is totally inappropriate. You never yell at the client.
Now
never
you listen to
yell at the
me,
client.
sir.
Here we go.
The three words I would describe you as is aggressive, hostile, and definitely difficult.
Please, Mr. Buttlicker.
I'm irate right now.
Give me the phone.
Please give me
He's
another
irate.
chance.
Give me the phone.
Mr. Buttlicker.
Give me the phone.
I have to put you on with my boss.
Well, I should hope so.
All right. I'm sure we've all had one of those working experiences where you just feel like you're not making way, or maybe perhaps you love being in those kind of environments. And that's really what we're talking about, is this topic of workaholism. And I got asked all the time, hey, are you going to be a part of that? Of course, I'm working. So I get paid to be here to talk about workaholism, and what an honor it is. And as we're approaching this topic, is one of the things, what is workaholism? What is workaholism? And it's a compulsive, uncontrollable need to work that interferes with your health, relationship, and overall well-being. Really what this is the inability to disconnect from work. It's from work or your job that it dominates your thoughts, it dominates your activities, then that will actually hijack. When you start seeing that your work, your activities, and your thoughts are really being dominated by your job, you start seeing how it hijacks your life. You start seeing how it hijacks your relationship, it hijacks your health. And then that is a really strong demonstration of the tendency of a workaholic. In fact, let's go ahead and take a little test to see if you're falling into the category of workaholism. Here's the first question. Can you disconnect from work? Can you disconnect from work? What does that mean? Is you're always on the job. You're always on work. Is I got to get out that last email. I need to be able to make that phone call. I need to get that post up or social media so I can get that promotion. Or maybe it's always tweaking that advertising. You're always on the job. Can you disconnect from work? If you say yes or no, it'll determine if you are. How about this question? Can you stop thinking about work? You know, workaholics they can't shut off their brains. They're always thinking about work. When they go to sleep, they're thinking about what happened that day at the office or on the job. And then when they're finished thinking about that day, they start thinking about about tomorrow, what they're going to do. They're always thinking. The only reason why they go to bed is because they want to rest for their next work day. They want to have that energy. So yes or no? Here's the third question. Do you put work over your loved ones? Do you put work over your loved ones? A nurse who mom was in the last days of her life. And one morning she woke up and knowing that her mom was close to that day where she would be passing. And the hospice nurse called her and said, I think today's the day. I would strongly encourage you to come and be with her in her last moments. She said, I'll be on my way. As she was getting in the car, it came into her mind that I need to go to the hospital. There's some things I need to take care of. So she went to the hospital, and that one thing that she needed to take care of led to another thing. And then that led to another thing. And eventually she caught herself and she goes, I got to go see my mom. And as she walked into the house, she walked into the room, she saw everyone in her family around her mom, and it was silent. And they just looked at her and they said, Mom passed away 40 minutes ago. Do you put your work above your loved ones? Yes or no? How about this one? Do you put your work above yourself? Do you put your work above yourself? A gentleman went in for his routine physical, and it was actually at his office. So it wasn't able to have to get off of work. He was able to go into the office and still get his routine physical. And as he got a call from his doctor and said, hey, we're very concerned. Something came up and we need to have you come back very soon because there's something showing on your prostate. And he knew he had way more to do, and he knew he had vacation coming up in a couple months. So he put off going back to the doctor, and in 2 months he came in and he learned that he was at 3rd level of cancer. The doctor said if you would have came in a little bit earlier, you would have been able to probably sidestep this. Now, if you answered yes to any of those questions, workaholism could very much be a part of your life. Here's key signs. Is workaholism, you work long hours. You love to work. It's that inability to disconnect. It's the long hours. How about this? Inability to stop your work thoughts. We talked about that. If you said yes to that, those are key signs. How about this one? This one gets me. Anxiety, guilt when not working. I feel like I'm missing out. There's something more I got to do. Everyone else is working, but I'm not working, so I feel guilty about that. I feel anxiety. I feel like I'm missing out. There's things that need to be done. If you like to-do lists and you're not working on that to-do list, or maybe the to-do list gets a little empty, not full, you can experience this. Another key sign is neglecting relationships. I saw this in 2016 in my own life. That's when I started here at FOTP. 2016, I became the marriage and family pastor right here. There was nothing here. And I had to start the ministry from scratch, which was very exciting for me because my heart, my passion is to strengthen marriages, see marriages thrive. And when I got here, I just went to work. It was so exciting. Doug gave me a blank slate. He said, do what you want to do. I was like, really? So I spent all my time thinking about strategies, thinking about tactics, thinking about ways how we can motivate. Because when most people hear about ministry, marriage ministry, they run away instead of running to it. So I had to figure out how to get them running to it. So I started spending all my time thinking about how to run a marriage ministry. And many of you guys, maybe you started businesses, entrepreneurs, or maybe you're a mom at home and you're trying to figure out how do I keep this house running, and we're trying to figure out how to do things better and how to have excellence and how to reach even more people in our businesses. That at the end of 2016, Carrie and I sat down and we realized that we've drifted apart. It was all good stuff, but work, what I was doing, started taking a toll on my own marriage. But there's a difference between hard work and workaholism. You see, workaholism is long hours too, but also hard work. Because work was something that was from the beginning of time when Adam sinned and Eve sinned, work entered the world. It's what we got out of all of that. Thank you very much, Adam. But we take work, and work is a great thing, but hard work is they know how to do this. They know how to stop. They know how to stop. As a workaholic, they have the inability to stop. They want to keep working, and when they're not working, they're thinking about it. If you ever been on a vacation, and let's say Bora Bora, you're out in the middle of the ocean, you're floating, the water is crystal clear, and you got your wife, you got your husband beside you, you got your kids. This is the dream. And you're thinking about an email that you need to send out for work. I think that's a good clue. Workaholism may be very much a part of your life. Or the anxiety, guilt when not working. Hard workers know that they put their best foot forward, they give it all they have, and they're working diligently. They know how to do a to-do list, but they know also how to stop. Because hard workers know this. They have a passion for what they do. That's good. That's a great thing, is having a passion. Workaholism have a passion, but they just take it a little out of balance. They take it a little bit too far, where the hard worker knows when to stop, as opposed to that workaholic just keeps going. And the anxiety, the guilt when not working, is the hard worker takes satisfaction as the workaholic sees emptiness. Neglecting their relationship. Hard workers enjoy vacation times. They live to be with their family. They reap from the benefit of the fruit, as opposed to workaholics. They want to keep going. They go through the sacrifice of their relationship, so that way they can experience more the relationship with their work and the satisfaction that brings, as opposed to their own relationships.
I find it a little insulting that you don't trust me to handle this.
And so here's the hidden cost of workaholism. Physical health impacts is the cardiovascular sleep. We're always thinking about something, and it also has an impact on your heart, your immune system, even leaning on substances to keep going. My father-in-law was a speaker that spoke at numerous events. In fact, he spoke in front of audiences that had over 60,000 people in attendance. And the doctor, when his heart started kind of giving him some hard time, the doctor really shared with him, Gary, every time you get there, you get that fight or flight. It's that rise in cortisol. It's that adrenaline that kicks in. Your body isn't designed to always have that hype, to have that big feeling. And with workaholism, that same impact happens every time we come to work, is our adrenaline can kick up. That endorphins that come in that makes us feel so good. We're always trying to get that high from that, and it comes at a cost to your body. So when we're sleeping, that gives our body that chance to rest, to re-energize itself, as opposed to workaholism is we're always alert, we're always working, and so the body doesn't learn how to survive on 4 hours of sleep. And it weakens your immune system. And then, of course, to keep that going, you have to lean on something. That's where the dangers of substance abuse. How about this? Mental health consequences, anxiety and depression, because we're not reaching that level that we need to be at. And then we're working so hard that it leaves us dry and empty, that's called burnout. And then perfectionism. You can never arrive at doing the best, because you always feel like, and you always see that little thing that is not perfect. And so that perfectionism is always, you're not going to hit it And so it starts wearing on not just your mental, but also your emotion. And here, how about this one? This is a huge one, is your identity. As we start looking at our work to be our identity, and we're going to go more into that one. How about this? The relationships, the social cost of being a workaholic. As a marriage pastor, I see this all the time. It's the strained family relationships, the increase in divorces, increase in couples separating, the increase of couples at their end, and just saying work is more important than everything else. I feel like I'm on the very bottom. In fact, I feel like I'm getting the crumbs of you. If you're hearing that, you may be a workaholic. And then also the unhealthy modeling for kids. The unhealthy modeling for kids. Because life is way more than just about work. And our kids see that, and they see that work ethic, which is good. But again, how do we have balance in our work life? Lastly, workplace ironies of workaholism actually decreases your productivity. Bree is going to be talking about this. And as we look at this, research shows over and over that the more we work, I know this doesn't sound right, we don't really get more done. And Bree's going to come up and she's going to share with us that secret that actually the Bible shares with us at creation.
Thanks, Roger. Yes, thank you. So Roger did a really good job of giving us the basics of what are we dealing with, what is workaholism, how do I start to see this in my life? Because workaholism, we're going to talk a little bit about this, but it can mimic a lot of behavioral addictions that we struggle with. So behavioral addictions are addictions outside of substances, gambling, some of these other addictions. A lot of us have a texting addiction to our phones, right? So these behavioral addictions, workaholism mimics that. And so we're going to look into, it's kind of hard for us to acknowledge that we struggle this way, because acknowledging it means that we have to do something about it and to change it, and that's hard. So we're going to get into all of that. I want to dig into some of the root causes. So the psychological root causes. While we're going through this, please try and identify what you struggle with, because if you can identify, oh yeah, this one's for me, this is the thing that keeps me stuck, we can start to give you tools for how do I start to work on that one. So a lot of us feel a sense of control at work. There may be a feeling of the rest of your life is chaotic and unpredictable, but work is a place where you can feel like your effort directly relates to results. If I put in this effort, I'm going to get this accomplishment at my job, potentially a promotion at my job. I'm going to get that feeling of a sense of control over my life that I may be missing elsewhere. And then if we also struggle with a low self-esteem, this is a great place for us to get external validation, right? The harder I work, the more I'm acknowledged, the more I'm noticed, the more I get a promotion or achievement or more money. All of those things are going to keep us seeking that out, right? Pair low self-esteem with the fear of failure, and we've got a really, really scary combo, because working harder feels like an insurance policy. If I don't want to fail, I'm just going to work harder and harder and harder and outrun that fear of failure. And in the process, I'm probably going to increase my self-esteem. So these things all play together and get into a messy cycle. Roger touched a little bit on perfectionism, but I think this is probably the most pervasive thing we see in our culture. There's never a good enough. We always have to keep striving and pushing, which leads us to longer hours and more edits and more, just more. We can't ever say, okay, this is a product that I can be proud of and this is good enough. We're going to get a little more into, if you struggle with this one, what are some tactics that you can try? I know I struggle with this one, and I know a lot of you also do, so we're going to talk about what to do with that. And then we're going to keep touching on this addictive tendency, right? We're going to get more into the addictive parallel here in a minute, but the rush of productivity actually sends chemicals into your brain, adrenaline and dopamine, that mimic behavioral addictions. So the more that you get this productivity rush from doing all the things you're doing in your job, the more that you're signaling to your brain, this is what I need. And again, I'm gonna get into a little bit more in a minute about how that spirals and how that leads us down the path of an addiction. I wanna pause here and tell you a little bit about my story. So you may be sitting here, or maybe your spouse dragged you here, or someone dragged you here, and you're like, this is not for me. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm not gonna struggle with workaholism. It's not possible. Well, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was a workaholic. Before I started working here, I was a stay-at-home mom to 2 kids under the age of 2. I was staying home ostensibly for the reason to spend more time with my kids, to be the person to pour into them and to nurture them and care for them. And what I found myself doing is being really, really intentional about pouring myself into the tasks. I need to make sure that the house looks a certain way. I need to keep the laundry up, the dishes up. I need to make great meals and make everything Pinterest worthy, right? No one was asking that of me, right? It was fulfilling an internal need within myself that nobody was asking for me. So instead of asking what's good enough, if my husband comes home at the end of the day and the house is a mess but my kids are happy, that's good enough, right? It wasn't for me at that point. And I wasn't a workaholic because of what I was doing. I was a workaholic because of my heart and my intention behind what I was doing. So we are still called to work diligently, right? To work hard and work well. But when I'm seeking out a sense of control and that my worth is based on my productivity and the product I show at the end of my day, that's where we get a little bit caught up and we get our priorities wrong. So if you are also in a boat where you don't work, you're not a CEO at an office, you don't go into a cubicle every morning, I want you to challenge yourself and see if you see any of these tendencies inside yourself. And the workaholism label is not important. What's important is looking at your heart and seeing what pieces you might struggle with, because there are things we can do about it, things to help you. So we're gonna get back into this addiction parallel. These are the tenets of an addiction, right? All of these you could apply to any addiction, whether it's behavioral or substance addictions. But when it comes to working, tolerance means I need to work more to feel satisfied. I used to work a 40-hour-a-week job, and that was enough. But now it's 50, and now it's 60. And if I don't work 60, I don't feel satisfied. I still feel like I'm leaving something on the table, so I'm increasing my tolerance. And then the withdrawal symptom is feeling anxious, like Roger was talking about, when I'm not working. Going on vacation, I feel so guilty because I should be doing this. I should be doing this for my job. That feeling of anxiety and guilt is that withdrawal. Continued use despite consequences. I'm gonna keep pushing, I'm gonna keep working no matter the cost to my physical health, as Roger talked about, my relationship issues. I may be pouring so much into my job that I'm completely neglecting my family, but I'm gonna keep doing it because I don't know how not to. And then a loss of control, feeling like I kind of wanna cut back. I see that there are some consequences that I don't like. My spouse is telling me that, hey, this isn't working for us, and I'm not able to cut back even though I see that it could be useful. And so the piece that I want us to focus on here is, when does ambition turn into dependence? I don't want us to see work as a bad thing. We are called to labor diligently and well. We just have to see when that goes from a place of ambition and working well into a place of dependence. This is now about who I am, not about what I do. So next I'm gonna show you a clip. One of my favorite shows, Modern Family. If you know this show, you know it is so funny, so silly. And it's a really good depiction of our society, of the modern things that we're going through. So I'm gonna set this up for you a little bit. If you're familiar with the show, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, you're gonna see a guy in this clip called Jay and a woman named Claire. Jay is Claire's dad. Jay has spent his entire life building and creating this business about closets, creating closets for people's homes and their businesses. Claire came on to help him with this business, and now they're at the point in their business where this young millennial group has come in to take over, but they're still involved in the consulting part. So you're gonna see this clip and you're gonna see a very strong difference of opinions in terms of what kind of culture we want in the workplace.
Okay, that's it. Now, I'm about to introduce you squids to a little thing called back-breaking, soul-crushing hard work. How many heart attacks have you had here in the last 5 years? 0? Where am I? America loves closets, and I'm here to build them. And you get this back when I see people pull up in the morning crying in their cars.
Yeah.
Okay, how many of you know a J? Do you have a J at your office? Are you the J at your office? I hope not. But this is silly and this is funny, but it is a really good depiction of hustle culture. We're gonna talk next about all of the cultural factors that lead us to workaholism. And hustle culture is huge. This is kind of that grind harder mentality, this idea that we're gonna celebrate long hours, we're gonna glorify overworking because we just have to hustle a little more. And sometimes we kind of wear it like a badge of honor, like, I worked 17 hours today, I really hustled for my family. And I really want us to see, does your family need you to hustle more or to be with them more? Again, I'm not saying don't work hard and work well, but seeing when we get really out of balance, that's what needs to be the red flag. Social media super takes hustle culture to a new degree, right? We see all of these quotes and memes all the time about grinding harder and working more and hustling more. It's really just solidifying this idea that rest is weakness. So we really need to notice when we're in this space. And also, as I was writing some of this, I was thinking about the ways that we can, which in addiction we do this a lot, right? We're rationalizing and justifying what we're doing. Some of the ways that we rationalize and justify hustle culture, right? So Roger was talking about his first years here working in ministry, in the marriage ministry. I told you about working as a stay-at-home mom, and then I came here to FOTP, and now I'm the director of the mental health ministry, and my job here is literally to help people who are struggling with their mental health to get more resources. That's good work, right? Like, that's awesome. I feel fulfilled in everything I do. And if I were to justify overworking and pouring more into this ministry, I could really do a good job of justifying the fact that, hey, I'm helping so many people. And there's so much good that's coming from this, and ignore the fact that I'm neglecting my family at home. God didn't call me to this ministry. He called me to this ministry and to be a wife and a mom at home, and to have interests outside of my job, and to have a social community outside of my job. And so for me to pour all of me into my work and justify it because it's good, it's not what God has called me to be. So really be honest with yourself. If you start to notice yourself justifying some of the things we do, God doesn't want good work for us. He wants balance for us. And if we can achieve good work and balance, that's the sweet spot. Technology. So of course, we are more connected than we've probably ever been, and we're probably gonna keep getting more connected. So you leave the office, but you still have your cell phone, your laptop, your tablet, your messaging apps that you can talk to everybody on. So it is easy to just send a quick message before you go to bed. Or you're gonna tuck your kids into bed and you're gonna send that quick text that you forgot to send. It's really hard to achieve any sense of boundaries because we're just over-connected. Adding in the economic pressures that we all struggle with, right? This can lead us to get to the point that workaholism almost feels like survival. We're gonna keep working harder because we need more money to support our family. And again, we're gonna get into some tactics here in a minute, but I really need you guys to think again, what is good enough? Because I don't know about you, but 10 years ago, if you had asked me what was enough money to make, it would have been probably less than I make right now. We're always gonna keep pushing more and seeking more and wanting more, so we have to set boundaries for ourselves to figure out what's good enough. And then family patterns. You may have grown up in a family where this was super normal, and it was modeled to you that this is how you work without a sense of boundaries or balance. So those are all things that we're having to unravel to figure out when we've entered a place of dependence. So we've told you all of the rough stuff. Let's get into what do we do next, right? So some things that we need to work on, the biggest, set boundaries. Pretty much any real talk you come to me for, you're gonna hear about boundaries. I love boundaries, I think they're great. But they really do give you a sense of freedom. So one of those boundaries, establish specific work hours. This is a boundary for you and for the people you work with. So if your work hours are from 8 to 5, you need to stick to that too, and then communicate that to other people, right? So that may look like someone comes up to you on your way out of the office, you've packed up all your things, you're about to walk out, and they stop you saying, hey, can you look at this real quick? That boundary comes in and you say, you know what, yes, I will help you with that, it's important to me, set it on my desk, I'll be there tomorrow at 8. That's a version of a boundary, and it's really hard, and we feel like we're disappointing people when we do it, and we have to get in the habit of setting up some of these boundaries. Creating a shutdown ritual. I want you guys to think about what this would look like depending on the specific features of your job, but a shutdown ritual. How do I close out the end of my workday and walk straight into my home life? So one of those small things that you could do would be to sit down at the end of your day, write down a to-do list of things you didn't achieve today that you're gonna start with tomorrow. It's gonna be sitting there waiting for you on your desk. You don't have to deal with it tonight, it's off of your brain. You can walk out and enjoy your family and come back to that in the morning. Designate work-free zones, another good boundary. Some of you may work from home. So if you work from home, there needs to be a designated workspace and a designated space where we don't work so that I can enjoy the other pieces of my life and those aren't bleeding together. So figuring out what that might be for you. I've talked a little bit about practicing saying no and what that would look like, just setting these boundaries of saying, you know, I'm not gonna be able to address that now, I'm gonna address that tomorrow. Or your boss asks you to come and do something extra on a weekend and you've already committed to doing things with your family. Being able to say a firm and kind no. It's so uncomfortable, I know, I feel it with you, and all of these boundaries are helping you clearly identify your priorities. What is more important to me? And my no is communicating that. Longer term strategies. So we've talked about some immediate things. Long term, we need to redefine what success means to us. And part of doing that is looking at what are my core values. So if I continue to define success the way that my job tells me to, it may never align with my identity. And so for me to pull away and work less hours at my job, my identity needs to be part of how I define my success. If my identity includes my kids, my extended family, my hobbies, some of those things need to inform what success is for me. We need to build support systems as well. So when I'm setting these internal and external boundaries, I need people in my life that I can say, hey, I'm saying that I'm gonna leave work today at 5. I need you to keep me accountable to that. I need you to help me know that this is the right thing to do, reaffirm that this is what's right for our family. That may be friends, family, an accountability partner. It may even be a therapist. I would encourage some of you, this may be a good thing to talk about in therapy. If you're not in already, we can help get you connected, but there may be things that we can unravel in terms of the deeper beliefs that are driving you into a space of overworking. What needs are you trying to get met through overworking? And then if we're trying to unravel this habit of workaholism, which is what it is, we're gonna need to put in some other things, some more healthy things in place as we take away work. And so some of that, to achieve balance externally, we wanna achieve balance internally. We need to be looking at how much sleep are we getting? How much exercise are we getting? What's our nutrition look like? The more balanced we are internally, the easier that's gonna translate into setting up more balance for the rest of our life. And then we have to talk about the Sabbath principle, right? And this is what Roger was alluding to earlier. The Sabbath is a planned day of rest each week that God intended for us to use to recharge, to reset, to do things that bring us joy, and to set aside the work and the obligations. He modeled this well for us, and he calls us to this because he wants to care for us. There are so many stories out there, and we don't have time to dig into all of them, but you can look them up about how the Sabbath principle, taking a day of rest each week, actually increases productivity. When we let ourselves stop from the constant hustling that I would say we weren't even created to do, when we stop from that and we rest, we're recharged and we're more efficient and effective. Some of the reasons why we're going to do the Sabbath: it's restoring your physical and emotional energy. If I am pausing for a 24-hour period from all of the stress and the things that have gotten me into a place of burnout, it's a weekly reset to realign my priorities, to work on my relationships again, to make sure that, okay, these last 6 days, I did not keep to my boundaries the way that I wanted. I really neglected this person in my life. It's a reset. We're going to start again. And we're going to try again. I have alluded to the good enough principle so much tonight. I think it's super, super important. So ask yourself this question: how do I realize when work is functionally complete? Functionally complete is very different than perfect. You are never going to achieve it. We know this, and yet we still do whatever we can to achieve perfection, right? So what does it mean to be functionally complete? What's the real deadline versus what's my self-imposed deadline? Those are usually different, and for many internal reasons that we have created. Am I adding value by working more, or am I just staying busy because I feel really uncomfortable walking away and saying, this is done, this is good? When I was thinking about this good enough principle, I was thinking about my training in grad school to become a therapist. So the first year of your training is really academics focused. You're just studying a ton, you're reading a ton, you're doing all the lectures. The second year is really a lot more of the practical things, where you're in rooms with clients and you're working on your skills to become a therapist. And you can imagine that in that second year, you get really burnt out, you get really tired, you get really exhausted. And I remember I would come to supervision where you have a more experienced clinician giving you perspective and advice. And every week she would ask me, what do you need to do to walk in and be a good enough therapist today? I think that's a super valid and valuable question we should be asking ourselves before we walk into any of our jobs. Because there's so much research that the actual biggest factor in someone healing in therapy is the relationship between therapist and client. It's the human connection, the experience we have together, and it has nothing to do with the interventions and the techniques and the homework assigned. So ask yourself, what does it mean for me to go into my job as a CEO today and be a good enough CEO? Insert your job, and really ask yourself that honestly. As we wrap up tonight, Roger's gonna come up with me and talk through some of our small steps for creating sustainable change. We want you to start small. If you try and do everything we talked about tonight, you won't achieve anything, right? It's too much, it feels overwhelming, we're just gonna quit. So start small. I want you to pick one boundary that you are going to implement and make it a tiny boundary. I'm gonna leave every day before 6 p.m. That gives you, however, if your workday technically ends at 5 and you leave by 6, that gives you an hour's room to figure this out, right? And then next week it's gonna be, I'm gonna leave before 5:30. So pick a small, doable boundary. And then I want you to gradually increase your tolerance for imperfection. Really, it's coping with the discomfort of feeling imperfect. I can't tell you that probably anyone in the world likes feeling like they're not perfect. We're all trying to be, right? And yet, part of being good enough and achieving balance in our lives is tolerating that discomfort. And Roger's gonna talk about the last couple for us.
Yes. And one of the things about growth is we're always trying to thrive, and especially as we're struggling with workaholism, is we always want to be the best. And even though we're putting boundaries in place, we're understanding these things, there's going to be some setbacks. And for us to expect that, so that way the things that Bree was talking about, these coping mechanisms that we can put into place, things that we catch ourselves in, well, really just knowing that sometimes I know I get really excited about a project, I'll creep over there on that side, but then just knowing that, all right, I need to put the things that I learned, because really what matters most, just the questions that Bree was talking about, is being able to answer that question, what is it in my life right now that I'm really trying to attain to? And the other one is professional help. Sometimes we come to that place where we just need a little extra support. We need to find out really what's inside that we're trying to achieve. What are we really trying to attain to fulfill that place in our heart that we're really trying to get to? So getting professional help, and we have our mental health advocates. You can go to our website, you can click on that, and our advocates would love to come alongside of you. They can provide some referrals for you, but also keep you accountable, support you, and pray for you on these things that you're trying to get to in your journey to not only just being whole, but for you to enjoy relationships. And there's this analogy that I know has really been helpful in my life as I learned how to do this. And we call this right here is, as you can see, this is red, and this represents your heart. And this really represents me. And my heart is, I only have so much I can give in life. And there comes that place in life where we're going to have to say goodbye to those who are important to us. And as we're in this time, in the season of our life, is we get to choose where we want to spend it. So every day I get the choice. Where am I going to put my energies? Where am I going to put my time? Where am I going to put the love that I have in my heart out? And if these two cups right here really represents work, and this really represents my home, this right here is champagne. Of course, this got to represent my wife right here on that. Then I have 3 little kids, so I got those 3 little kids that I got to take care of. Actually, they're big kids. And then I have these 2 right here. So for a lot of us is we wake up every day, excited, look at what I get to accomplish today. I can't wait to get to work. And so we go to work and we start pouring ourselves into, and we just keep going. We go, we're giving everything we have. If you're like me, I grew up with 110%. If you don't give 110%, then you're not working hard enough. And so 110%, I just did the work, and now I got this part of going home. But instead of going home, I decide to go home, but I'm still working. And so I decided to keep pouring into my work, got some leftover things I need to do, so I pour more of myself into work again. And after a 16-hour day, here's what I got left. This is what I got left. I still got a lot of people to pour into. So I go home, and this is my leftovers. I pour into Carrie as much as I can, put that in. Then I'm kind of tired, exhausted. But then I got 3 other kids I got to pour into, so I'm pouring into them as well. I got to get these, and for some reason, we like to think that kids will bring happiness, and so we learn very quickly they suck the life right out of us. And so we keep pouring right into them. And then, of course, this little shot glass right here represents my mother-in-law. She does live with us, so I just give a little, just enough. There we go. That's enough for her. And then you always have that person at the office, that customer, that thing that really just takes everything out of you. And so you just, and that's what you go to sleep thinking about. And look at what I have left, is I'm empty. Where am I expecting to get filled up again? Work isn't going to give it back to me, but I'm empty. And so many of us, as we pour into work, it leaves us empty. It leaves us unfulfilled. And we start wondering, where is this source of life coming from? And as we look at the source of life, there's only one source, because I, as a pastor, have never been on someone's deathbed hearing them talk about a project they did in 1986, how much they enjoyed that. As opposed to what I really hear is how much they love their family, how much they enjoy going to those memorable trips that they had together as a family, or they talk about their grandkids. They talk about relationships, is what Bree was talking about, is that connection, the relationship, as opposed to the things that we do, is knowing that it's about relationship. Life is about relationship. The rest is just details. And so we're looking at what is going to fill our tank, where are we going to get our fulfillment from, where are we going to get our identity from? Where is our source of life coming from? Well, it comes from one person, and he's the living water, and that's Jesus. Jesus is our source of life. And what I love about what he says in Luke is, I did not come to be served, but I came to serve. And so instead of expecting return on a fulfillment, give me value in what I do, is Christ is going to fill us up. And all of his living water for us is that now we get to have the job of serving people and a joy of seeing people smile. We're not looking to do things for them. We're not looking just to make more money. We're not looking to accomplish that to-do list. What we're looking at is that human connection, because human connections last, and human connections give back. And Jesus, as the ultimate fulfillment, came to give his life for us so that we may have life. And not only just have life, but have it abundantly, is knowing that he wants to give back to us so that we can experience a life unlike we've ever dreamed or imagined. No work, nothing can ever replace the source of life, which is Christ. And as we start looking at what are we going to put our energies into, it really comes down to a relationship with Christ. Christ is the fulfillment. And out of that love, out of that pouring that comes into us, that we get the privilege, we get the honor of pouring that love out on everyone else. As you've been through all of this was a lot of information, but we have a guidebook that we developed that we would love for you to take part in. And there's a QR code. In fact, it's on our website. You can go to fotp.church. It's on the mental health site. That guidebook will come up, and you can download it as a PDF, and it will take you through everything that we shared with you. In fact, there's some great questions that as you're looking at where do you want your life, because when you say goodbye, do you want it to be stuff that you've done, or do you want it to be the loving relationship that you got to pour into and experience that life that Christ talks about, the abundant life? Now, Bree, I know we probably got some questions.
Yes, we have some questions that I want to get through, if you want to set that for me. So I want to start with one that you sort of started touching on in your last part, Roger. But one of the questions that came in is, what biblical truths can help moms? I would edit this and say, what biblical truths can help all of us in whatever job we're struggling with combat the guilt of not doing enough? So you touched a little bit on that just now. Other biblical truths that you would bring up?
Yeah, memorizing Scripture is a great thing. And memorizing Scripture, when you talk about what should we memorize, because what we put into our mind and what we meditate on every day is one of the best scriptures I can see, and it's a short one, it's easy to remember, is Matthew 6:33. To seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and then all these things shall be added unto you. And so a great hack for that is set your alarm at 6:33 a.m. or 6:33 p.m. And, on your alarm, you can have the verse right there so it comes up. And then it's just a reminder, wait, what am I doing? What's really important to me? It's my relationship with Christ. It's my relationship with others. And so that's a great thing. Put it on your bathroom mirror as a reminder. And it's a great way to just keep meditating, knowing that, hey, he's got the details. You just keep focusing on the relationship. And the other one is really the great commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and others as yourself. Yeah.
I love those. I love those because those are tangible, small things that you could do it could be one of your things to try this week. Set your alarm for 6:33 and help you realign your priorities just a little bit every day. Another question that we got was, again, I'm gonna edit this, and when it says moms, put in your job title. How can moms learn to rest when it feels like the house and family always need something? There are lots of ways that we could probably address this question, but the thing that I honestly think about so very much, probably every single day, multiple times a day. I remember when I was younger, my dad used to say that at the end of your day, you will always have something left on the table, something left on the desk, whatever your job is. You are never going to be able to end your day and have it be a clean slate. Everything is completely finished. So you need to be able to figure out at the end of my day, what am I okay leaving to address tomorrow and what can I not? And if we ask ourselves that question, most of the time we're going to be able to leave that report that needs to be filed, that call that needs to be made for work, and we're going to instead invest in the people in our lives because those things can't wait until tomorrow. So it's a good little reminder to ask yourself at the end of every day. I said this a little bit before, if at the end of my day my house is a disaster, but my kids are fed and loved and safe, we gotta call that a win. So really, again, we come back to kind of redefining what your idea of success is. Roger, how do I decide when it's too much? How do I decide where the line is of diligently working and entering into workaholism?
That's a great question. And we talked about balance on that. And I shared the story with Carrie and I in 2016, where it was work, starting a brand new ministry, which is starting a brand new business. And then Carrie's actually the orphan care director, so she was starting a brand new business. So she was doing her work, and then kids had to start a new school. We moved in from Missouri, and that took a lot of effort. You got to make new friends. You got to not only make new friends, you got to get familiar with this area. And then Carrie's dad passed away within a month of working here. And then my brother's wife at age 48 died of a cardiac arrest. So 2016 was really hard. And there was so much going on, so many details that how do you know hard work from crossing that line? And because we know having a passion is good. Having a passion is good, but then also is knowing what is going to last. What is going to last? And, you know, Carrie and I, when I was talking about it, at the end of the year, we came to that point like, who are you? Because we were doing good things, and we were feeling like we were making strides, but in the end, our marriage was sacrificing for that. And so Carrie asked me, said, you know, whatever you do 110%. I grew up with that. I was a college athlete. Coaches are always saying, hey, if you don't give me 110%, if there's no blood left out on the field, don't come off the field. You got to give 110%. She said, what I would love for you to do, and this always stuck with me, is will you start giving work 80% of you? That's it? That was really hard. Like 80%, I'm like asking questions. What does that mean, 80%? You know, just kind of take a little bit off of it. Like Bree was showing, is stop meeting with everybody. Take a little time off. Start setting those boundaries. Is start using that word, no, which is extremely hard for me. If you're an overachiever, you want to do everything, you want to meet with everyone. So is start doing 80%. And I actually felt like I was cheating. I thought, I'm going to get fired if I just 80%. So, but that boundary, and we put things in place to protect our marriage, is doing 80% instead of 110%. We got to put those boundaries, and it's okay to allow your spouse to speak into that, because if they're saying, I'm feeling neglected, I'm feeling alone, I'm feeling unimportant, I'm feeling like I'm getting the last of you, that's true on it. And being responsible is good. We got to work so we can provide. But at the same time, if our spouse or a family member, your kids, want more time with you, then you really need to listen to that. And that was my wake-up call on that, is I needed to throttle back. And she said, there's other ways to accomplish what you want to do. And I thought, no, it really needs to be me. And that's why we started Marriage Boost at our church, is to give me more time at home. So there's ways you can accomplish things without you having to do everything. And putting that boundary in place, give work only 80% of yourself, so that way you have stuff left over to get in the tank. And Bree, you've worked with numerous marriages, is one of the things that we hear, couples are so busy. We're all busy. But when they come home at night, they're so exhausted that they don't have time to connect, have communication, that they just collapse into bed. And eventually, the relationship is going to be gone. So give 80%, protect that relationship by putting those guardrails in place.
Yeah, I agree. In the interest of time, we're going to do one more question and then we're going to wrap up. This last question says, I'm worried that as a workaholic, I've damaged some of my relationships with my family. What are some boundaries I can put in place to help separate work from my personal life? And how do I go about mending those relationships? I love this question. I think some of the boundaries we discussed a little bit in terms of some things we can put in place to show where our priorities lie. And I think in terms of going about mending these relationships, the biggest thing that I think someone can do if you feel like you've struggled with workaholism and you've had your priorities out of line, the biggest thing you can do, I think, is to tell them, to own that, to acknowledge that to them and say, you know what, I've been feeling like we're really disconnected, and I'm thinking that my job is a huge part of that. I can see that I've been giving so much of me to my job, and I'm coming home and giving you the scraps, and I can see the effects of that on a relationship. I see that our kids didn't want to come to me when they came home tonight. They wanted to come to you because I'm never here. Whatever it is for you, acknowledging that and saying that is allowing your person in your life to feel seen. They see that you get it and that you want to do something about it. Because saying I'm going to change, we may have all heard that a lot of times, and we may not take that as seriously, right? But saying, I see what I'm doing, I see the impact it's having on our family, and I want to commit to working on that, goes a long way. So as we wrap up tonight, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in on live stream.